You keep replaying every moment, every word, searching for the clue that will finally make it make sense. But this compulsive search isn't about finding them anymore. It's about finding a part of yourself you believe can't exist without their approval. You tell yourself you're looking for answers in their silence. But you are not looking for answers. You are looking for a reflection of your own value in someone who has already turned away. This constant ache you call obsession isn't a sign of how much you love them, but a measure of how disconnected you are from your own sense of belonging. It's a relentless, low hum of anxiety that you have learned to mistake for devotion. You scan your memories, your text messages, the silence between you, thinking the pain is proof of your connection, a testament to its depth. But it is actually the sound of a very old wound being torn open again, a wound that was there long before you ever knew their name. The desperation you feel isn't passion. It's a primal fear of exile, of being erased. As the researcher Brené Brown speaks of, our need for connection is not a preference. It is biological. When that connection is threatened, especially by someone we have made our entire source of validation, it registers in our nervous system as a survival threat. You are not just losing a person. You feel as though you are losing your place in the world. This desperate, all-consuming need to matter to them reveals this core human fear of being cast out, of becoming invisible and forgotten. The physician and author Gabor Maté frames this kind of relentless fixation not as a romantic failure, but as a primal addiction. You are not addicted to a person. You are addicted to the temporary escape they provided you. It was a potent distraction, a momentary relief from a much older, inner emptiness that they, for a brief moment, happened to fill. The obsession is the drug, and the person was just the needle. It was never truly about them. It was about your desperate need for relief from a pain that has lived inside you, quietly and patiently, waiting for something to attach itself to. They didn't create the wound. They simply gave it a face and a name. The obsession feels like a phantom limb, a part of you that's gone, but still sends signals of intense, throbbing pain. You feel their absence as a physical presence. It's the weight on the empty side of the bed, the silence in the car where their voice used to be, the instinctive turn of your head when you see someone with the same coat. Your body has memorized them. It remembers the hope, the potential, the chemical rush of their intermittent attention, even if your logical mind is screaming that they are gone. This neurological ghost isn't a memory of love. It is your nervous system caught in a trauma loop, a circuit that has been fried by uncertainty and then sudden withdrawal. It is constantly scanning, constantly searching for a presence that, in truth, was never fully there to begin with. This isn't remembrance. It's a reenactment. Your mind is replaying every good moment, every kind word, every sliver of hope, because it cannot process the vast, silent void they left behind. It's a desperate attempt to find evidence that what you felt was real, that you weren't crazy. The pain is not from the amputation of the relationship itself, because an amputation implies something was once healthy and whole. The deeper, more unsettling pain is your system's refusal to accept that what you are reaching for was never truly solid. It was a projection. It was a hope. And now, your entire being is aching for something that was only ever a ghost. You are haunted not by a person, but by a possibility that never came to life, and your body is still waiting for it, caught in a permanent state of anticipation for a guest who was never going to stay. Let's be honest with ourselves. Here in the quiet of this moment, this person didn't create the emptiness inside you. They just happened to fit perfectly into a void that was already there. This hole, this deep and aching sense of something missing, was dug long ago. It was formed in the silent moments of your childhood where your needs went unseen, where your feelings were treated as an inconvenience, where you learned, without anyone ever saying the words, that love was conditional. You learned that belonging was something you had to perform for, something you had to earn by being good, or quiet, or useful. You were trained not how to be loved, but how to audition for it. So you became an expert at reading rooms, at anticipating needs, at making yourself small enough to be tolerated, all in the hope of finally being chosen. The obsession you feel now is simply you as an adult, still trying to fill that same space. You are mistaking the echo of that old, familiar pain for the sound of a profound, once-in-a-lifetime love. The truth, and this is a hard truth to hold, is that you recognized their emotional unavailability because on some deep, unconscious level it felt like home. Their distance wasn't a warning sign. It was a familiar landscape. Their inconsistency wasn't a red flag. It was a challenge you felt uniquely equipped to handle because you've been training for it your whole life. You saw their emotional fortress and thought, finally, a wall high enough that, if I can scale it, will prove I am worthy. You didn't fall for them. You fell back into the oldest pattern you know. The desperate, exhausting, and all-consuming attempt to finally earn a love that you were never given freely. You became an expert at surviving on emotional crumbs. You learned to see a feast in the smallest morsel of attention they threw your way, because a starved person will call any bread a banquet. You became addicted to the unpredictable nature of their rewards, the sudden text after days of deafening silence, the brief moment of warmth in a vast sea of indifference, the vague, future-facing promise that kept you tethered to a one day that never arrived. These were not acts of love. They were random, unpredictable hits of validation, dispensed just frequently enough to keep you from walking away, but never frequently enough to make you feel secure. You were not being loved, you were being managed. Your hope was the currency that kept the machine running, and you gave it freely. Like a gambler sitting in a dark room, hypnotized by the lights of a slot machine, you weren't playing for the jackpot of a committed, stable love. You were playing for the dopamine rush that came from the small, unpredictable wins. That jolt of relief, that temporary reprieve from the gnawing anxiety of being worthless. That was your entire world. The obsession is not you holding on to love. It is the gambler's fallacy, the unshakable belief that if you just pull the lever one more time, you'll win back everything you've lost. You pour your self-worth into the machine, coin after coin, ignoring the mounting losses because the memory of the last small win is so intoxicating. But the machine is designed for this. It is designed to take more than it gives. And the house always wins when you are gambling with your own soul. You were never going to hit the jackpot because the game was rigged from the start. Your heart feels anchored to someone who has already sailed away over the horizon. You feel the weight of this connection in your chest, a heavy, immovable certainty that you are still tied to them, that you cannot move forward until they return. You stand on the shore, watching the empty ocean, feeling the pull of a rope that digs into your skin. But the truth, a truth that is both more painful and ultimately more liberating, is this: you are anchored to a ghost ship that was never truly docked in your harbor. It was always just passing through, its lights distant and alluring, promising a destination it never intended to take you to. You fell in love with its silhouette against the sunset, but you were never invited on board. This profound internal conflict, the logical mind that sees the empty horizon, clashing with the emotional body that still feels the pull of the rope, is the central tension of your suffering. It is your adult self knowing they are gone, warring with a wounded inner part that still believes that if it just holds on tighter, if it pulls the rope with all its might, it can stop the ship from leaving this time. It's a desperate attempt to correct a past abandonment, to rewrite a story that has already been written. But you cannot stop something from leaving that was never truly there. The anchor you feel is real. Its weight is undeniable. But the ship is an illusion. And this state of emotional paralysis, of being unable to leave the shore, is the consequence of holding onto a rope that is attached to nothing but a memory of potential. The only way to be free is to look down at your own hands, see the rope, and understand that you are the one who is holding on. The person you can't stop thinking about doesn't exist. Not in the way you imagine them, anyway. You have built a beautiful, idealized monument of them in your mind, a carefully constructed version that is flawless and complete. In this mental shrine, they are the one who would finally see you, the one who would finally choose you above all others, the one who would rescue you from your own quiet loneliness and make you feel whole. You took their flaws and polished them into charming quirks. You interpreted their indifference as a sign of profound depth, their inconsistency as a mark of a free spirit. You fell in love with a character you wrote for them, a character who possessed all the qualities you felt were missing in yourself. You weren't in love with a person. You were in love with a solution. The obsession is your stubborn refusal to let go of this fantasy. It is your refusal to demolish the monument, because doing so means facing the devastating reality that you are the only one who can rescue yourself. Letting go of the idealized them means you have to finally turn and face the unidealized you, with all its perceived imperfections and unmet needs. And that is the terror you have been running from all along. The obsession provides a beautiful, tragic, and all-consuming distraction from the quiet, persistent work of your own self-reclamation. As long as you are focused on them, on decoding their behavior, on winning their approval, you don't have to look at the emptiness they were meant to fill. The fantasy was never about them saving you. It was about saving you from the responsibility of saving yourself. For a soul that has been starved of validation, the potential for love is a more potent and addictive drug than the real thing. The almost relationship, the constant state of what if, the perpetual chase. This is where you felt most alive. The state of heightened, anxious hope was your oxygen. It was the thrill of possibility, the constant puzzle you felt you were on the verge of solving. This state of emotional hunger, of being perpetually on the edge of getting what you want, felt more intense, more meaningful, and more real than the quiet stability of a genuine, secure connection. You weren't living in a relationship. You were living in a permanent state of anticipation, and that anticipation was intoxicating. Real love, the kind that is steady and predictable, can feel boring or even threatening to a nervous system that has been calibrated for chaos. The calm predictability of someone who shows up consistently, who says what they mean, who offers reassurance without being prompted. This doesn't provide the same adrenaline rush as someone who might disappear at any moment. Your body learned to equate the anxiety of the chase with the feeling of love. The racing heart before a possible text, the overanalysis of every word, the desperate hope for a sign. This drama felt like passion. In reality, you weren't in love with them. You were in love with the feeling of almost having them. The chase made you feel alive because the destination, real, steady, quiet love, is a foreign country your nervous system may not even recognize. The turmoil felt like home. Every hour that passes without their text, every unanswered call, every online post they make while ignoring your message. You interpret it all as a direct comment on your worth. Their silence becomes a verdict, a judgment handed down from a person you appointed as your judge. In that void, you hear the words they aren't saying. I am not important. I am not memorable. I am disposable. You desperately search for meaning in their absence, dissecting their inaction as if it were a coded letter, believing that if you could just crack the code, you would understand why you were not enough. You believe their silence is a message intended for you, a punishment you must have deserved. But their silence is not a message about you. It is a mirror. It is a vast, empty, polished surface. And when you stare into it, you are not seeing them. You are seeing your own deepest fear reflected back at you with perfect, painful clarity. The terror of being invisible, of not mattering at all. Their withdrawal forces you to sit in the unbearable discomfort you have been running from your whole life, the feeling you have used countless distractions to avoid. They did not create this feeling of being insignificant. Their silence merely revealed it was there all along, waiting beneath the surface. The silence hurts so profoundly because it resonates with the oldest silence of all. The one where your childhood self waited for a comforting voice that never came, for footsteps that never approached, for an acknowledgement that you existed and that your feelings mattered. Their silence today is just an echo of that original abandonment, a painful reminder of the first time you learned that you could be left completely and utterly alone. The real heartbreak, the one that truly matters in the end, isn't that they left you. It's that you left yourself long before they ever had the chance. The ultimate betrayal, the first and most profound act of abandonment in this story, was your own. You were the one who silenced your intuition when it whispered, and then screamed that something was wrong. You felt it in your body, the tension, the anxiety, the gnawing feeling of insecurity, but you told yourself it was your own baggage, your own problem to fix. You meticulously negotiated your boundaries down to nothing, trading your peace for a scrap of their attention, convincing yourself that your needs were too demanding, too much. You made their approval more sacred than your own sanity. You taught them, through your actions, that you were willing to settle for less, because on some deep level you believed you deserved less. You showed them that their comfort was more important than your own truth. You apologized for things that were not your fault and accepted blame that was not yours to carry. This obsession, this constant, painful noise in your head, is the echo of that betrayal. It is the sound of your abandoned self, the part of you that you left behind in the chase, crying out to be reclaimed. They didn't break your heart. They simply took a hammer to the cracks that were already there. They held up a mirror to the exact place where you had already turned your back on yourself, and the reflection was unbearable to witness. The pain you feel is not just for their absence, but for your own. Eventually, through sheer exhaustion or a flicker of weary acceptance, the storm of the obsession will pass. The frantic checking of your phone will cease. Their name will appear in your mind, and it will feel less like a knife and more like a dull, distant ache. The constant, noisy chatter of what-ifs and if-onlys will quiet down, not because you found the answers, but because you are too tired to keep asking the questions. The storm will break, the winds will die down, and the rain will stop. And in that deafening silence that follows, you will not find peace. Not at first. Instead, you will find the original wound in its purest, most unfiltered form, waiting for you patiently. Beneath the drama of the obsession, beneath the stories you told yourself about them, lies the quiet terror of your own inadequacy. The raw, untethered loneliness. The deep, sinking feeling of being fundamentally and irrevocably not enough. This is the place you were using the storm to avoid. This is the true starting point. The obsession was never the illness. It was just a loud, violent, and distracting symptom. It was the storm that had to happen to finally clear the wreckage, to wash away the denial and the fantasy, and to show you the foundation upon which all of this was built. For the first time, you are not looking at them or at a memory or at a hope. You are looking at the barren landscape of your own inner world, and you are finally, truly, alone with the feeling you have spent your entire life trying to outrun. This agonizing journey through obsession was never truly about them. It was a desperate, primal cry for help from the most wounded part of your own self-worth. It was the part of you that learned, long ago, that its value was external, negotiable, and always in question. The entire ordeal, the hope, the waiting, the pain, the silence, was a distress signal from a part of you that you had abandoned. In the language of Brené Brown, true belonging never asks us to betray ourselves or shrink to fit in. The real courage, then, is not in winning them back, but in turning towards this pain, to stand in the arena with your own feeling of inadequacy, without flinching, and for the first time not look away. As the physician Gabor Maté might suggest, this is the moment to see this obsession not as a pathology or a sign of weakness, but as a compass. It is not broken. It is pointing. With painful, unerring accuracy, it is pointing directly to the original wound of your past, the place where you first learned that love was scarce and that you were not enough. This experience did not emerge to punish you. It emerged to finally guide you home, not to them, but to the compassionate self-attention and unconditional acceptance you have always deserved, and that you now realize no one else was ever capable of giving you. The cry has been heard. The reclamation can begin. This wound is not your identity. It is a map, but learning to read it, to follow it back to its source and begin the real work, that happens elsewhere. The diagnosis ends here. The healing starts on the other side. We have put together a short guide to help you sit with this silence. It is not about moving on. It is about understanding what you are truly moving through. It's free and it's honest. The link is in the description.